alei lemala, alei ben adam, alei lemala, alei ben adam, alei lemala, alei lemala, alei ben adam, alei lemala, alei כי כוח אז לך, יש לך כנפי רוח, יש לך כנפי רוח, כנפי נשרים אדירים. בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי כי כוח אז לך, יש לך כנפי רוח, יש לך כנפי רוח, כנפי נשרים אדירים. בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי כי כוח לך, יש לך כנפי רוח, יש לך כנפי רוח, כנפי נשרים אדירים. בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי למעלה, עלי בן אדם, עלי למעלה, עלי.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, our friends, our beloved family. We are reaching you here from the main sanctuary at Temple Emanu-El in beautiful San Francisco. And it is, in many ways, the closing of an arc of a month of intensity spiritually for so many of us, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the beautiful and vulnerable time of Sukkot into Shmini Atzeret, Hoshana Rabbah, and then tomorrow night, Simchat Torah. And so tonight we welcome Shabbat. And with that, we'd like to invite Rabbi Beth and Rabbi Jonathan Singer to join us from home right now to light the Shabbat candles. Please join us.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are thrilled to just embrace the joy of Shabbat with all of you.
And we invite you, if you're lighting your Shabbat candles, to light them now. We definitely need to bring more light into the world. And we're so glad that we're all coming together. And we want to wish everybody a safe and healthy and peaceful Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
We now invite you to join us for Lecha Dodi on page 20.
יאללה לה 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 לך דודי, לה 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 לקראת כלה, לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקווה, לה 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 לך דודי, לה 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 לקראת כלה, לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקווה, שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, כי השמיענו אל מיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמעו תפארת ולתהילה. לה 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 לך דודי, לה 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 לקראת כלה, לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקווה, כי תעוררי, כי תעוררי, כי באורך שיקומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. יאללה לה 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 לך דודי, לה 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 לקראת כלה, לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקווה, בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי כלה,
thank you for that beautiful Lecha Dodi, uplifted by our piano and beautiful guitar and always amazing spirit of Cantor Marsha Addy. And now we invite the angels to bless us on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem. And I can definitely feel the angels in our sanctuary tonight, the beautiful splashes of the rainbow color that are greeting us.
And I just want to also welcome Jonathan Ferris and Dan Zemmelman to join us. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharek, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Melech Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem leshalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
We invite you to rise for the Baruch Hu, which is on page 28.
Yai, rai, rai, yai, rai, 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 yai, rai, yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, rai, yai, rai, 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 yai, rai, yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, rai, yai, rai, yai, rai, rai, yai, rai, 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 rai. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai.
Please join us for the Ma'ariv Aravim on page 30. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bidbaro Ma'arim V'hochma Potech She'arim U'vitbuna Meshana Itim U'machalif et Hazmanim U'mesader et Kovim B'mishmorotechem Barakia Kirtzono Borei Yom V'Layla Golel Or Mipnei Choshech V'Choshech Mipnei Or.
ומאתיר יום ומאיפי לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרבים.
Join together now for the Shema on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Yevon Malchuto,
seated. If you've been standing, and please join us for the Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We move now into the Michamocha on page 40, and we remember the very narrow or dark times in the journey of our lives and the beautiful ways that prayers seem to uplift us and to bring us forward.
And we have a special melody for Sukkot that it's customary to put Micha Mocha to the seasonal melody. So this is just a melody that we do just during this week, this beautiful week of Sukkot. And it goes like this. Micha Mocha Bailim Adonai Mi Kamocha Nedar Bakodesh Nora Tehilot Osefele Nora Tehilot Osefele Malchutcha Ra'u Vanecha בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We continue on page 43 with Let There Be Love. As we continue with our Misha Berach prayer.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Tonight we take into our hearts the members of our community that are ailing in body or spirit, and we say, Amisha Berach, Avotenu Vimotenu Hu Yavarech Kol HaCholim B'Kila Shalanu. We ask for God's continued blessing for these members of our community. Susan Cole, Susanna Benningfield, Frank Friedman, Ruth Rishin, Marilyn Lubarsky, Adrian Garcia, Sarah Romoff, Antonio Salazar Hobson, Michelle Schultz, Edith Robinson, Jennifer Begg, Susan Whalen, Jennifer Moshier, Richard Zuniga, and Nancy Luck.
Let there Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We continue on page 42 with the Hashkivenu. And this is certainly a time when we could use a little more of a Sukkot Shalom, a little bit more. We think about the beautiful, vulnerable sukkah outside and how vulnerable each one of us feels this strange time in our lives. And so we reach out to the heavens and ask for that Sukkot Shalom.
Ashkifenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
That was amazing. I hope it was amazing wherever you were hearing it. It's certainly amazing to just have that beautiful melody on Shabbat. And I want to say, as we prepare for the tefillah on page 46, before you rise, if you feel like rising, um, people have asked me since the High Holy Days, when we said that we could actually see you and feel you in the sanctuary, did we really mean it? And what I have to say in answer to that is, I have to see and feel you in this sanctuary because I am, and I don't think fantasy is a bad thing. I think fantasy and dreams at this point, 7 months into the sheltering place, is very important. And so, yes, I'm fantasizing and I'm dreaming about a time when Cantor Addie and I are actually standing, touching each other and leading you on Shabbat, and that you're all in here. Because if I don't imagine it, if we don't feel your presence and feel one another, it feels like maybe this isn't going to end. And this is going to end. We don't know when, but I have to imagine a time when we are in another place and another time and we are really together. And so this will suffice for now, but believe me, we can feel you here with us. And so when I pray my personal prayers in the Amidah, I certainly include all of you and you wherever you are.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, let my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elokei avotenu v'imotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, v'Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel, v'Elokei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please take some time for your own reflection.
אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה אבקש, אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה אבקש. שבתי שבתי בבית אדוני, שבתי שבתי כל ימי חיי, שבתי שבתי בבית אדוני, שבתי שבתי
Wow, that was such a beautiful Chachalti.
That is from our dear friend Chava Morel, who we've had with us several times now at the synagogue, and God willing, she will be back in the not too distant future
In person,
in person.
in person. Baruch Hashem. It's remarkable that you sang that version because that's the version I was listening to today. And that Psalm 27 traditionally has accompanied us for these 51 days from the first day of Elul until tonight. Tonight is the last night that traditionally we recite Psalm 27 and those beautiful words in English. The one thing that I ask of you, my creator, the divine presence of the universe, is to allow me to live in your presence, to be close to you all the days of my life. And I think that's so beautiful to end our High Holy Day season with that wish, that desire. And tonight we really arrive at the beginning and the end of the Jewish spiritual year. The end of the month-long Chagim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, now Hoshana Rabbah, and tomorrow night, finally, Simchat Torah. So tonight I thought I'd talk about journey, about our journey. And the focus on the past month has been of who we are, who we want to become, and how. We've prayed and prayed. We've admitted our mistakes, our errors, our shortcomings, and we've really dedicated ourselves in the past month to make ourselves better, but not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. Our traditional prayers find us in the balance between the book of life and the book of death, between being a tzaddik, a righteous person, and a rasha, an evil person. But this strange year, this sheltering in place for the last 7 months, many of us have had time to think and be quiet and to really wonder about what these prayers had to do with us. It made me think, aren't we always living in both books? Aren't we simultaneously living and dying with every breath and each day? And I'm not saying that in a negative way or a scary way. It's just the truth that each day that passes, we're moving farther away from the time when we were born and closer to the other horizon. I have yet to meet a person who is actually a rasha or a tzaddik, who is wholly righteous or wholly wicked. To me, it seems just like that, living in between life and death, we are always living in between righteousness and wickedness. It also feels like a relief in some way. In the Tanya, the classical work of Hasidism, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Laidi developed a beautiful response to that question of righteousness and wickedness with the revolutionary concept of Benoni, which really feels very appropriate. The Benoni, we're all Benoni. We are all between those two. We are all living in the middle, in between. I have felt very in between in these last months. The end of Sukkot tonight is really the very bridge between the spiritual intensity of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Zman Simchatenu, this joyous period of Sukkot to Simchat Torah. The sukkah, which still stands outside in the courtyard, holds all of our fragility and our vulnerability, all of our hopes and dreams for this next year. In the same space is the recognition that at any moment in a structure like that, we could be rained out, burned up, or blown over by the storms of life or nature. And still, I saw all over the Bay Area people building their sukkot. We wave the lulav, we hold the scent of the etrog close to us, very close to us, to remind us there has to be zman simchatenu, there has to be time for sweetness, days of joy. We take down the sukkah and we open the door tomorrow night to Simchat Torah, to new beginnings, to gates that never really close all the way of tshuva. Simchat Torah seems to me to be a way to kind of extend or respond to the Ne'ilah service, the last service on Yom Kippur, which traditionally says the gates of tshuva close on that night. But we know that the gates of tshuva, the spiritual journey we're on, never really shut for those of us who desire to do that work. The work, well, it's the way I think about spiritual work is really if there's something that during those holy days, especially between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the days of reflection and repair, if you didn't get to it, if there's something that was ruptured or undone, you're not supposed to wait until next Rosh Hashanah on the eve of 5782 to get to it. So I'm asking you right now to think about what that thing is that you left undone between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Who was that person you didn't talk to because it was just too hard? Or what was that one thing that you left undone in terms of your spiritual journey? Maybe a misunderstanding, a closeness with a family member or a friend that really is in your hands to repair. Who is that person? Everybody has someone. And so maybe after Shabbat, I encourage you before we end all of these holidays to actually write a real letter, not an email, just to get out a stamp and write a letter and call that person perhaps and talk about what that means to you. Simchat Torah, tomorrow night we'll be reading the very last verses of Deuteronomy and the first verses of Bereshit, which shows this Shana, this change, this cycle that never ends. It's read that way so the Torah doesn't have a beginning and ending, but it meets somewhere in the middle. The death of Moses at 120 years old, overlooking the horizon of his life and the promised land, knowing that he will not be allowed to enter, feels like our own journey story of our lives. We all know that at the end, we'll have to hand over the ability to live and to vision into the future to our children and our grandchildren. And then the story continues with creation. In a beginning, literally an entirely new beginning of a new world. Bereshit bara Elohim. We literally line up these two chapters, the very last one, V'zot HaBracha and Bereshit together. So there's no space in between. And we teach that when we join the last letter, Yisrael, Lamed, to the first letter of Bereshit or Vet, we bring those two together, and it's the word for heart, Lev, in our tradition. And I often wondered why I would get so emotional on Simchat Torah, that moment in time when the very end and the very beginning are touching one another. And I realized that it was because for me it symbolized there was no beginning and no ending, that we're all really on a circle. We just celebrated the Rosh of the Shana, the Shinui, the change, and we never get to an ending because we're so focused on the next beginning. The philosopher Franz Rosenzweig puts it this way: this close of the spiritual year is not permitted to be an actual close, but must flow back into the beginning. The last word of the Torah gives rise to the very first. So when I talk about the work of our spiritual journey, it's to just keep moving around the circle, the Shana, the cycle of change, as if there's no beginning or ending. The actual destination and the homeland that we seek, perhaps, is the journey itself. There's a beautiful parable that Franz Kafka wrote, which seems like a midrash on this subject. He writes, I gave orders for my horse to be brought round from the stable. The servant did not understand me. I myself went to the stable, saddled my horse, and mounted. In the distance, I heard a bugle call. I always think of that as the shofar. I asked him what this meant. He knew nothing and heard nothing. At the gate, he stopped me and asked, where are you riding to, master? I answered him, I do not know, only away from here, always from here, always away from here. Only by doing so can I reach my destination. And he asked me, and so you know your destination? Yes, I answered, didn't I say so? Away from here, that is my destination. He said to me, you have no provisions with you. And I said to him, I don't need provisions. The journey is so long that I must die of hunger if I don't get anything on the way. No provisions can save me, for it is, fortunately, a truly immense journey. I love how he ends it. Fortunately, it is a truly immense journey, which is an incredibly optimistic way to think about our life from beginning to end. That bugle reminds us of the shofar sound, to wake up. And the truth is that we know where we are coming from, but none of us really know where we are headed, how we're going to get there, or even when we will. And it makes me think that even at the darkest parts of our journey, we have to have faith that we ourselves might be the provisions, and maybe the journey itself is the provision, as there is no end to our exploring. And that reminds me always of my favorite verse from the poet T.S. Eliot, who says, we must not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we began and to know the place for the very first time. We must not cease from exploration, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we began and to know the place for the very first time. And so at this part of our journey, as we move into Simchat Torah, I wish us all a Chag Sameach from this intense period from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, and finally into a place of joy. And it really is up to us to be the provisions, to be the joy, and to be the sustenance, not just for ourselves at this time, but also for everyone else around us. Shabbat Shalom. It is now time for us to focus on memory. And I'm going to read the names of those in our community before the Kaddish, and then invite you to join me as we remember those in our community on page 294. Those who Shloshim fall tonight: Gretchen Bergruen, William Kreitzberg Spinrad, Karl Baum, Igor Kopolenko, Gary Melvin Luck, Dr. Sheldon Levin, and Trudy Cohn, and the Yartzites who fall this time of year from our community: Myron Asness, William Atkins, Richard Baruch, Barbara Merle Cohen, Cecil Dodick, Lucille F. Dorfman, Steve Eisendrath, Sarah Feig, Mesa Feldman, Avraham Friedman, Jimena Friedman, Rochelle Garber, Francis Chabal, Philip Goldman, Adele Hornstein, Helen Iskoff, Joel Eisenberg, Henry Kowalski, Emmanuel M. Kraus, Rose Lieber, Jack Lurch, Marvin E. Lewis Sr., Julie Lopper, Henry Lewis Lyons, Carl Mayer, Sheldon Mark Mitchell, Frank Morris, Raquel Newman, Susan Nissen, Tilly Novoshen, Betty Faye Newsonow, Kalman Pedot, Amy Post, Stephen Rice, Louis Rogalski, Vega Rosen, Judith Rosner, Harry Rubenstein, Fern Reinecke, Gerald Enoch Sachs, Nasia Nikki Salen, Frida Shapiro, Miriam Shushami, Erwin S. Silver, Sanford Silverstein, Odilon Spinola, Lillian Strang, Nancy Sirkin, Jeanette Tenenbaum, Larry Teplin, Esther L. Vorsanger, Edita Weidman, Eileen Wise, Bernard Volin, Erlang Yang, and Nikki Zarevsky. Please join us. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, ve'alma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivorach leolam ulmei alamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, z'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oh, say shalom bimroma. Huya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru. Amen. Oh, say shalom b'rama. Huya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael.
Ready for Kiddush?
Ready for Kiddush. Here, I'll come get it. Again, I want to thank our musicians tonight, Dan Zemmelman and Jonathan Ferris. So nice to have them here with us. And if you have a prayer book, well, in my book, it's on a different page.
It's on a different page here too.
Oh, it's on page 5. If you're
Thank
looking
you.
for
It's the
at the,
beginning of the
at the
Siddur.
Shabbat Mishkan Tefillah, you're on page 5.
Thank you, Cantor.
So if you have something to drink at home, raise your glass. We can see you and feel you. We can imagine you with us raising your glasses together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'masei v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat lechaim. Chaim, 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 Rabbi.
Sorry, Cantor, about not letting you get the wine and getting too close. And I have to say, we have to be forgiving of each other because I walked outside this morning without my mask and got halfway down the block, and we sometimes forget. And I think it's because sometimes we want to forget that this is what the reality is, but we have to remember to keep each other safe. And I know many people probably are very surprised I haven't mentioned the fact that the election is so close because it's me, and gave a whole sermon without mentioning it. But I will tell you that I voted today, and it felt really, really good and very, very hopeful. So just getting to the polls and just putting it in the voting box was an exhilarating, hopeful feeling. So with that, we're going to join in the motzi. Just a reminder to vote and vote early. I can't say from Chicago, we say vote often and vote early. That's not okay. But just to make that happen, it's very important. Please join us for the motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'te'avon. Shabbat shalom.
Everybody. Take good care.
We love you.
Shabbat shalom.
We miss you.